And there we go. We are excited, we're passionate, we're happy, but we are going to keep our fingers crossed because the bandwidths, everything is being jammed up. If you don't know that and you're experiencing trouble on your cell phone, trouble on Zoom, trouble on the internet, the gods are with us, but the people behind the dark wall are not so with us. But good morning, everyone. This is Wealth Wellness Wednesday. This is a Naughty Boss, Carol Sue, aka Naughty Boss, live with Two
Sisters. Hey, and good morning, everyone. My name is Janice, excuse me, aka Wellness Diva. And don't you know it, when I get ready to talk, I start coughing. I don't know what's going on with that. And I've done every type of thing, you know, the warm water with the lemon. I don't know, but we'll keep working with that. So, Wealth Wellness Wednesday, first and foremost, before we dig into our episode today, we are sending our love prayers to Carol Sue's grandson, my great nephew, Jedrick. He is undergoing a very serious procedure today, so we ask for prayers. And we thank you for all the messages and love and support that my niece Tina and her family has been given thus far, and just keep those prayers coming. So let's dive right into our episode, but I want to catch up on something. I came across something this morning, and this has nothing to do with nothing about today's topic, of course. I guess it does in a way, but I work on the social media aspect for TwoSistas and the Reel, which is coming up shortly. So I did a search, and now I do a lot of my research stuff on my laptop. I have a new computer now, and I'm trying not to jam that up. So I still use, you know, I have my iPad, my computer, and then my new computer. So I'm doing a search on different topics. And on my laptop, about the 11th row down on the far right, I see our tag picture for the TwoSistas podcast. And I kind of look at it and I'm like, well, why would that show up in a search? You know, not thinking, you know, we've been doing this for a while. So, you know, that it will start to pick up at Google searches, which that was kind of cool in a way. So I go on the picture, and then there's something below it where you hit the website. So there's a new, well, I don't know how new it is. I don't know how new it is, but there is a new podcast format called Listen Notes. Didn't even know we were on that forum.
What's it called?
It's called Listen, Listen Notes.
Okay.
And I frequently, now we set up through Anchor, but all of our podcasts are broadcasts and have been picked up by different podcast forums. Now, Listen Notes does not show up through there. So I was like, oh, well, I never knew this existed. So I was kind of like, well, that's kind of funny. You do a Google search and you find your stuff is starting to show up in the feed. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I kind of went through it just real quickly to kind of look and, you know, see if, you know, if there are any comments or, you know, what was going on with this different forum. And I didn't realize that as of yesterday, we have 140 episodes under our belt.
Woo!
Starting from May 3rd, 2020. So I thought that was some pretty cool information. So after today's podcast, I will be updating the TwoSistas Facebook page, but we are now on Breaker, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, Copy, RSS, and now Listen Notes. So listen up, peeps. The Reel is coming for you.
Absolutely. That's such exciting news. And it feels good to get good news and exciting news because obviously yesterday, today, and I'm so grateful for my tinctures because I needed a little boost. I needed a little support in the mindset. I needed a little support with my system, remaining calm, remaining postured, because we always go back to things are just not in our control. The only thing that we are in control on or with is who we surround ourselves with, the vibes that we want to be encompassed in the vibes that we're feeling, good reads, good music, good podcasts. Because at the end of the day, whether you've got something going on with your family, whether you've got something going on in your community, your church, your state, our country, we're not in control of it. But just because we're not in control of it doesn't mean that we should not be an active participant in being in the know. So what that means is a lot of people will say, and I understand, a lot of people choose, and we have the freedom right now to choose things that we talk about, things that we want to share about. And some people like ourselves are more comfortable, confident, and postured that we do share and continually will share and be authentically us. For some, they like to keep things more private. For some, they don't want to engage. But my question would be too, and I think part of it is really absorbing what is really going on in our world right now, really absorbing what is going on in our country right now. And it's a lot to absorb. It's a lot for the average person to wrap themselves around, how did we get here? And what I would like to tell our listeners and our viewers, whether you're dealing with a health issue, whether it's cancer, whether it's some sort of disease you're battling, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's what's going on in our world, just because you want to kind of keep your thought process to yourselves does not mean you should be a not active participant in being in the know. And I think that's part of while so many people, especially in our country, I'll bring it to from a political perspective, so many people have been complacent with being involved with what's going on in their towns, what's going on in their states, and what's going on in our country. So that is why they're getting bamboozled. And it really, they're hearing all these different things of fraud elections and, underground government, the layers of corruption. It's a lot to absorb. And it's really because, I would tell somebody, it wouldn't be an I told you so. It wouldn't be like you've been warned. It would be, I understand that you may not want to hear what's going on in our world from maybe somebody that you know, because maybe you think, oh, they're a little cray-cray, or they're too involved in that, so they can't really be right. What I would encourage on this Wealth Wellness Wednesday is to do your own be in the know. Maybe look at, geez, I'd like to listen to a very, the opposite of what you believe. So if you're a liberal, listen to somebody that's a more conservative. And I'm going to start with a podcast. There's so many great podcasts out there. And I'm not even going to suggest any because I don't want to have an influence on a person that way. I want you to do your own research. So look up a couple, maybe one or two that you feel that you've researched and found that, hey, they're the top 2 conservative platforms. And knowing how you already believe, you shouldn't have to back it up with a liberal podcast. You really want to choose the opposite of what your beliefs are. Now, depending on who you listen to, you're going to get on either side, you're going to get some, I would say, what I consider a little on the cray-cray side. They're so far left or they're so far right. Try to pick somebody more in the middle, but not too in the middle, because what frequently occurs is we go for the safe spot, the safe news that we feel, the comfort zone. We want you to come out of your comfort zone, because when you do, and when you're open to say, you know what, I have so many friends and family that keep telling me there's a lot of corruption going on in our government. Are they all wrong? I mean, think about that. think about who your circle is. And if you're only, because a lot of people will say, oh, don't you just delete Democrats? Don't you, you've got a lot of friends that are Democrats. No, I don't. I don't believe in their ideology. And I would even encourage them to, instead of automatically put the brakes on, actually listen to what's going on in our government. Now, the flip side of that would be, oh, well, do you listen to liberals? I do. I have. And that is really, where I found the vast difference, and it's just going to get only worse, because there's only a few Democrats that were that liberal that now have seen the light. So that was a wake-up call for me. There are many, many very prominent Democrats that have now said, whoa, we're not on the up and up here. Like, this is not my Democratic Party from 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Or was it? And it was just hidden so well. So when we talk about the deep state or the underlining government, we're not saying those are all Democrats. So I want to make sure that we're clear on that. And I think probably the two unique pieces of a conservative versus a liberal, a liberal, they stick like glue. They are like joined at the hip. They are ball and chain. They're going down in the ship. They don't care how corrupt things are. They are not pivoting away from that belief. Where conservatives have absolutely no problem calling out their own party. They have no problem calling out the military. They have no problem calling out people in government, regardless of their party. Because I truly believe a conservative, and I'll probably get some backlash about this, but I truly believe the spirit of patriotism is rooting in the conservative viewpoints of our forefathers and not this liberal, really left wing. So am I calling out like the really left wings? I don't think that I would consider them patriots. What do you think?
Well, as we all know, I am less, and I've said this before, I am less boisterous about my political feelings and concerns. I have to limit myself to certain things because that's just what I have to do to, I think, really function sometimes each day. But I think that it's interesting that, for instance, in today's post, for some reason, cherry picking, I don't know why, I wake up with these words in my head, cherry picking, and I saw this background and it's cherries. And I tried to...
And cherries are good for you, by the way.
Yes, they are. They are very good for you. So the caption, and I will definitely tie this into the political conversation that we're having. And I say in today's post, are you winning in the wellness arena? And it's a cherry picking background. Well, think about that for a moment. We pick and choose things every day that are good, bad, and different, fantastic, overwhelming, whatever that may be. And I think as a whole, why some people can be consumed with it, some people have to take the information little by little. And I think I'm one of those people. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. So a post this morning that had an audio recording to it. Normally I would not listen to stuff like that in the morning. It blew me away so much so that my comment on that post was something to the effect that whether you think that there was fraud, election fraud or not, I don't care what party you feel. I don't care what party affiliation you are, but there is some serious shit going on. I don't claim to know it all. I'm going to say that probably 5,000 times. I don't know it all, but I know enough to say you have to, at some point, come to terms with how you're going to accept what is going on. So if that means that you have to, excuse me, cherry pick your information on when, and, you know, maybe not listen to something like that first thing in the morning. I try to catch up on stuff or different news segments before I get into my day. That works for me. Cherry pick how you need to consume the information and when, because I think that's really, if you do terms, you're going to feel that you're going to feel great about what's going on in this country, because quite frankly, I don't feel great about what's going on in this country right now. And for, you know, and it brings me back to somebody that I follow on Facebook. I have such great respect for this person, and I'm sure many of you know him. His name is Dan Bongino. Excuse me. His first post pretty much every day, and he's been doing it for quite a while. And I'm not going to say this verbatim, but it goes something to the effect: the Obama-Biden administration was the most corrupt in the U.S. history. And
look, what a bold statement that is. And when you think about that, and you have not been one of those informed people, whether it was, you know, you didn't want to be informed because you were blocking it out, or whether you didn't want to be informed because you just, that wasn't your thing, or you don't really believe what's going on. What a statement that is, Jan.
What a statement. And you should see some of the comments. And there, I would say 95% are comment in support of Dan Bongino. And of course, there are some in there that are, and that's okay. Like, that does not faze him. So
right.
My recommendation is, when you see something like that, and you may be, if you're a true hard Democrat, you may be offended by that. So you need to cherry pick how you respond. And if that's that you get maybe on your keyboard and type something out, but maybe type it in your Google Notes before you hit the send button. That would be my recommendation. You know, don't be one of those cherry picker keyboard bullies.
Right, because that doesn't serve a purpose, that doesn't impact, and you're not being part of the solution when you do that. So that is so true. And at the end of the day, we are not here, and I personally do not, it's not my job, nor is it our passion to change anyone's mind. We just are presenting what we truly believe is out there. You know, we do our research. There are some credible signs of things that we witnessed. I mean, last night was a perfect example. A lot of people were like, you know, the country depends on this Georgia vote. And when you're sitting there and you're watching the news cycle in live, being reeled in live time, and you see, I mean, I witnessed it. Purdue was up 32, I think it was 32,400 votes, and all of a sudden they were gone and they were on the other side. And that was a flashback moment from when I saw that happen with the November 3rd election. Now, I know it's not in my control, but I can't put a blind eye to it, because then I'm not an active participant in being a citizen of the United States. So while it's not anyone's job to convince you, and that is not what TwoSistas or Janice and I are doing, we are letting you know that there is some incredible podcasts. Don't take it from us, but we would encourage you to do your own due diligence, be an active citizen of your country, and be informed. But don't stay in your comfort zone, because then you're doing a disservice to being open to hearing what's actually out there. I have a lot of respect for some true Democrats that were, I would say, the Democrats from decades and decades ago. And when you see them saying, hey, this is not the party kind of that I signed up for. Their ideologies and mine are now not aligning. Why is that? There's so many that are coming over and or are speaking out. That speaks volumes. But in addition, I think conservatives have proven time and time again that our true mindset has to be for the country. And if that means that some Republicans are going to come down, then so be it. Does that mean that some military, some pretty high people high up in the military are going to come down? Does that mean some of our justices, Supreme justices, may come down? You know, I think we have to do a total clean sweep and remove the bad actors. And there's layers of them. And we are not saying they're only on the Democrat side, because if you say that, then you truly don't know what's going on in our country. There is corruption on both sides, and it's not just they're in government high positions, but that includes the military, the Pentagon, the CIA, we know, the FBI. These are all bad actors that are in there. And you know, we have to come together and pray for our country that the leadership that is going to go forward is going to peel back the onion and peel back the layers as stinky as it gets.
So and this leads into this amazing quote that I found last night. And so I'm not going to say who the person is that said this quote or said what I'm going to read right now. And I'm just going to read it real quick. Every time we turn our heads the other way, when we see the law flouted, when we tolerate what we know to be wrong, when we close our eyes and ears to the corrupt because we are too busy or too frightened, when we fail to speak up and speak out, we strike a blow against freedom, decency, and justice. This is somebody who I admire and respect. His brother, I admire and respect. And I will just say that they are not Republicans.
Yeah, I think that says it in a nutshell. And I think, as I always say, that I'm an eclectic in the music world. I love all kinds of music. I'm also eclectic in politics. I love listening to many, even opposing people, because I think that's what broadens your mindset, makes it that much more clearer to have clarity in the direction that you want your family to go to. So while you see us so passionate, think of it this way. I have, we are that next generation. So we may have the grandchildren, the grandnieces, the grandnephews. Those are the future. And if we sit back idly because it's so easy to be in our comfort zone and block the world out, and I'm not saying you have to be super vocal, but at some point you have to say no right from wrong. And you have to say what is best, not only for my country, because that's going to trickle down to my family, to my wealth, to my wellness. There are already things that are starting to shake up, in the stock market, for those of you that are in the stock market, the uncertainty of what's going on, and you have to go with the waves. What I will say is that I was not surprised over last night and this morning. I'm not surprised by it. And I hope that the state is thrown out in all areas of credibility, in all areas because of how they they did a lot of illegal things. Georgia has been notorious for being a corrupt state. It didn't just happen these last 4 years. It's been corrupt for a long time. So I hope people smarten up in that state and demand better, because you're an embarrassment to our union. You truly are. What's going on in Georgia is an embarrassment to our union. And that speaks volumes, because the importance of this election and what it stood for, of the majority of the people that came out and voted on November 3rd. Now, do I totally blame it on the people? No, because obviously they're not in control. You could have had a lot of fraud going on again, because the stage was set. They're using the same machines, the same protocols happened. They stopped counting votes. They were going to come back at 8 a.m. And then during the night, all these bam. is when a lot of machines were probably filled with more votes or switching votes or whatever. Does that leave you with confidence? Does that make you feel, God, I'm so confident to go vote because the integrity of our state is on point? You know, when I heard one county, and I believe it was Cobb County, said that they were closing the doors at 11 and they were coming back at 8, there was too many to count. And then I look at the state that I come from, that I'm blessed to be living in now in Florida, and they managed to close, you know, the polls at 8 o'clock. They managed, because they've got such a cross your T's, dot your I's mail-in system for votes, because they had issues years ago and they took care of it. They cleaned house. They got rid of the leadership that was corrupt. And if Florida, as big as Florida is, can get their votes in on time in a national president election with none of the issues that this one county had, if you're not scratching your head, I hate to say that you're a student, but you're a student, because you can't, ignorance is not bliss. Being a student is not bliss. But what's even worse is just being blind. You have vision, but you're not open to see.
And I think that is why the word cherry picking, those two words came up, cherry picking. And by the way, that quote that I read, Robert F. Kennedy.
Absolutely. He was one of the good guys. He was one that did not want to follow suit with a lot of the corruption that was going on. Was he a perfect? No. I would have to say that we're human. We're all human. So there's not one perfect person, not one perfect being out there, not one perfect human being out there. We're not supposed to be. That's how we learn. That's how we evolve. That's how we change. That's how we, it's part of our journey. But he was, I would say he was the people's president, as President Trump is. He is the people's president. And
well, Robert Kennedy was the attorney general for his brother.
Yes. Oh, I thought you said it was John Kennedy that wrote it.
No, Robert Kennedy.
Oh, Robert Kennedy. Okay, so my correction. It was Robert Kennedy, who was also, you know, had vision, and he could have, I think, and I think they were a little nervous that he could be the next president.
Right, exactly. I mean, that was when I first started learning about politics and Democrats and Republicans. Obviously, we grew up in a Republican household, but you know what our parents instilled in us was, you know, President Kennedy. That was the Democratic Party. It wasn't, you know, of course there's opposing viewpoints. Of course we're all different. And you've said many times, if we were all the same, it'd be quite boring. But that really was the heart of the Democratic Party. And you fast forward to when the most corrupt President Obama was elected. I did vote for him. I was
for his first term. I also voted for him because he had a lot of he was charismatic, very, very, very similar. I thought of him very similar to JFK in the beginning, until some things just didn't add up.
Right. So, you know, I understand from different friends that are Democrats or, you know, Republicans that have said, you know, being a Democrat today doesn't matter who the person is. If I'm a Democrat, and I'm just going to vote Democrat. So I think that is why when I pose the question to some people, like, I don't care what your party affiliation is, but you obviously know who you are voting for, but do you know what you are voting for? And I never heard any responses to that. And if I did, it was all hate on President Trump and the Republican Party. I'm like, that's not what I asked. I asked, do you know what you voted for? And that's where I had to cut or toe the line and do some cherry picking of my own. And yes, I may want to respond now, and I've done this, and I've said it hundreds of times. I'll start to, get on my keyboard. It's not worth it. If you want to share your viewpoints, that is your God-given right. Now, we are not perfect. We don't know it all. We don't claim to know it all. But you've got to be willing to toe the line. You have to be willing to stand firm in your beliefs. And if you have to withdraw from social media during certain times of the day when you know there's going to be a flurry of activity, that's what you need to do. If you have to, not turn on CNN while you're trying to work, don't do that. Whatever are your cherry picking kind of instigators. There's good cherry picking and then there's bad cherry picking. So you have to choose your cherry picking and choose it wisely.
Absolutely. And, we encourage everyone just to be informed, to really understand the validity and the vast feelings that are going on in our country and what's really at stake. We're talking about democracy. This is not something that, and I think that's part of the issue. People think, oh, this isn't really happening. That's stuff you read in history books. Like that happened in the Lincoln times. We're not going to civil war. We're not going to, our country doesn't do that. We're not in, our government is good. Our government, wants to protect us. And I would just say be diligent in knowing that you have to be open-minded, you have to be prepared. I'm sending out, I'm wearing my good vibes shirt for many reasons and putting that out in the universe. And my hope is that, God watches over our country and keeps people safe. We know that there are not a few 100,000, but there are millions in DC now. I believe the rally starts at 11 a.m. And I believe Congress and the Senate meet at 1. I still haven't gotten confirmation because I haven't really been on any news sources today to even find out. But from what I had heard, it started at 1. There's a lot going on in our country right now. And what I would ask the country to do is come together in prayer that the patriots that are in DC, that there is no violence, that they're there to witness what will transpire today, even if it's not what you think it is, or even if it is what you think it is. And that the whole point is that the bottom line, at the end of the day, we don't die a Democrat, we don't die a Republican, we don't die an independent. We die as a human being, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And when that time comes for people, we want it to be as peaceful as possible. We don't want violence. We don't want people going and destroying property, trying to attack the White House or the parts of DC. You can have your voice heard, but use some common sense. And if you stick with who you went with, or you're sticking with good vibe people, remember that there are always bad apples in any group. Choose wisely.
Cherry picking. So on that note, your wellness, do something for yourself today that is going to kind of take that burden off of you, whether it's you go for a walk, whether it's you do some chair exercises, whether you punch a bag, if you play pickleball, whatever your thing is, go do it and get that goodness going for you. On that note, my name is Janice, aka Wellness Diva, reporting live from my very cold North Haven, and I'm going to turn it over with my cohort to
TwoSistas, and this is Carol Sue, aka Naughty Bus, live from Vero Beach. A little bit chillier today, but that is okay. It's brisk. It's going to be a nice day for a walk. Let's be kind. Let's pay it forward, and remember, be a reflection of the person that you want to kind of feel and embrace. So when you look in the mirror, ask yourself some questions. Are you serving others and then you're impacting others in a positive way that's going to leave an imprint on their heart in a good way. You guys take care. We will see you tomorrow for Trending Thursday, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of stuff trending. Take care.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.